Hello, and this topic gets a little bit rough. What I mean by that, it really is a lot. And what I want you to kind of see is that you might want to stop this video to copy this down. There's a lot to it, but I want you to kind of see the process that works with this. And this process is going to take a little bit of a longer time because there's a lot of writing that we have to kind of explain and going through our trying to solve this, because that's what we're trying to do now. We're trying to take some kind of equation and solve it and see what the solutions are, so when you plug it back in, it should work. So let's go through this here. What we're going to do is do the quadratic formula. And what that means is that you have to review what we kind of discussed. So review that ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 this time. Before, you were looking at those kind of, or these kind of equations where you had to kind of factor or box method or something like that. You kind of have to do something to get the solutions. But what happens if it's not a nice equation? Then you're going to have to kind of use another alternative way. So this right here, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, is called a quadratic equation. It's the equation because it's equal to 0, where a, b, and c are all real numbers. So all real numbers. It could be fractions too. But a, the beginning number, cannot be 0, because if it's 0, you don't have a quadratic equation anymore. So if a equals 0, you don't have a quadratic equation, because that goes away like that if a is equal to 0. So what I want to do is kind of go through a couple examples and then hit the quadratic formula. So the steps that I want you to make sure that you know, that you need to check if it's quadratic, if it's in this form. 2, is it descending order? So remember, descending order is going down. So we have 2, 1, good, 2, 1, 0, 2, 1, figure that one out. So, and then figure out what the A and B are, because that is very essential for our formula. So, here we go. Hope you got this down. You're stopping this video and you're writing this down before I even go over it, because you need to have this in your head. Don't write what I'm doing, because sometimes listening and comprehending is very different. A lot of people don't listen, and then that means they don't comprehend. But if you listen and try to comprehend, you should be fine. So stop this video and copy this down if you need it. So 2x squared plus 3x plus 4 equals 0. A, B, and C. What are they? Well, I put them in color for you to kind of help you distinguish that out. So what we're going to do is kind of put these here. So A is 2, as you can see. So A is 2. B is 3. C is 4. You see how I did that? Number 2, A is 3. B is negative 2. C is not 0, it's 7. And I'm taking this whole thing. Okay. Number 3, descending order, good. A is what? Well, A is a missing number, but technically there is a number there. It's 1, right? What's B? Well, B in this case is bx. Bx, which is technically, the B is negative 1. Because there's a negative 1 right there, isn't there? Is there, where's C? Uh-oh, I don't have a number for C. Well, in that case, you're going to call it 0. They don't give it to you, so it's 0. So that's, you might want to remember that one because that one has a lot of special things going on with it. Look at 4. We have oh, wait a second. Check for quadratic. I have quadratic, so that means that 2 is quadratic because it's squared. However, is it descending order? This one is not descending order. So we're going to change things around. Well, you can change things around, or you can actually pick out A, B, and C if you want to. But I prefer you put it into order just to help you out. So this is negative 2x squared plus 3x equals 0. So technically this is that now, if I change the order around. Now I know what A is, because that's A. I know what B is, and C is not there. So that's another one that's 0. Look at this one, number 5. Oh, check for quadratic. Well, first off, where's this squared at? Where's this squared at? There's no squared, so technically this one's not quadratic. So, can't do it. Can't do it because it's not a quadratic. Quadratic has to have a squared in it. This doesn't have a squared in it anywhere. Look at number 6. They can be decimals. Real number is a decimal. So A is actually going to be 0.01. B is 0.03. And C is 1. Okay, now you have the basics down. You have the distinguish of what a quadratic equation is. What if we decided to factor now? And that's going to run into an issue, and that's where the main focus is on that. This is just a setup. This is just a setup. So let's go through some problems that involve some quadratic equations. I'm not going to do these. I'm going to just do some small ones, just kind of get us started. So here we go. I'm going to actually leave that. And I'm going to take all this down, because we don't need this. Okay. Oops. I'm going to take that. Then I'm going to put that back. Squared, and this is the C. Equals to 0, right? So there's your quadratic equation again. So here's the formula. Well, let's do this first. Let's factor one of the ones we're going to do. So let's do this one. So let's review. I want to factor. And I want to factor this one. X squared plus 3x plus 2. I want to factor that. And you should remember how to factor this. So does this factor? Well, remember how to do it? Is it quadratic? Is it descending order? Factor it. Your diamond method. What goes in the top? Is that 2? What goes in the bottom? 3. Remember, this is multiplication. This is addition. Now you're looking for the 2 signs. You're looking at the last number, which is 2. So you're going to go 1. Oh, sorry. 2, 1 times 2, right? That's it. 1 times 2. So now you're just going to say, okay, I'm going to put a 1 and I'm going to put a 2. Are these the correct answers? And you're like, okay, 1 times 2 is 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. Awesome. You just factored it. Put it into those factored forms now. So you're going to sit here and go, okay, I need to see 2 parentheses. They have an X in them, X in them. I'm going to take these 2 right here and go 1 and 2. You're taking these 2 values, they're both positive, and you put them right there. This is your factored form. So this is your factored. Factored form. Okay? That's from that. Well, let's say, for example, what if it didn't factor? It wasn't nice like this one is. They can get kind of crazy. Is there another way that we can like an alternative way that can help us get to here. There it is. So before I do that, do you remember how this one was equal to 0? Let's make these two equal to 0. Because remember, we're trying to solve now. So once you try to solve, what's going to happen when it's equal to 0 is that this is a multiplication, isn't it? So according to the zero product property, when you have two multiplications equal to 0, you have two separate answers. I show you. So this first one is going to be x plus 1 and x plus 2 equals to 0. Do you remember how to solve for 0? Well, one thing, you could take the parentheses away and now solve for x. Hope you know how to do that. A lot of students, they do this, right? And then they solve for x, right? So you have x equals -1, x equals -2. You have two solutions. The reason you have two solutions because you have a quadratic. What if you have a quadratic, sorry. You have a quadratic. So you have two solutions. And the reason that you have two solutions is because you have a squared. And you're probably wondering, what does that mean? Well, when you do the graphing of a certain polynomial, so just a rough sketch. I don't want to go from the topic that we're doing, but we need to realize that what happens at x not -1? Well, x minus 1 is right there. Where is x equal to at? -2. It's right there. So you have an x and you have a y, right? This is a parabola opening up. So it's going to go like this and go something like that. That's kind of what you're doing. But, like I've said before, these are the solutions. These are these. Well, mix it up. Those are the solutions. What if this wasn't a nice... What if this wasn't nice and you just couldn't factor it? There's another way that you can do this, and that's what we're going to do. Just because this video is a little bit longer, I don't want to go into that. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to go do it part 1, because you can take a break and you can go on to the next video. So I don't want to make this video very long. So I will see you in the next one, and where we're going to do the quadratic formula.